Yeah, so I did not do this as my first career. I'm 42 years old, and my first job was as a Wall Street credit default swap trader at Lehman Brothers in Manhattan. My roommate started Vimeo in the apartment I was living in. Guy Jake Lodwick, he lives in Austin. I just moved, so I wanted to do. I had a 10-year trading career, made a bunch of money, wanted to do that. After the crisis, I quit, and with this incredible false confidence and sense, like Wall Street does very strange things to you if you do well early in your career. It makes you think that you're smarter and better than everyone else.
Sure.
Which I think is good in a way, because like knowing what I know now, I'm not sure that I ever would have started the first business that I started. You know what I mean? Like,
right, of course. Yeah, like
like
it's not a path that you like lay out logically. You're like, I'm gonna do this. Like if you thought about it reasonably, nobody would ever be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, totally. But you know, it's just what I just felt like, and my brother's an entrepreneur too. Like I just felt like these people who were, I hadn't put the verbiage to it that like building and watching something grow that you're applying your attention to is what I think we all are addicted to. It's the same thing with having kids. You know, it's I think it's just the same thing. It's like humans love being in these exciting growth environments.
Sure. I mean, hey, look, we all get trained for it. We all had Legos as a
kid. Certainly everybody listening to this is like, I'm sure if you're like, you know, an accountant and your goal is to have like a, you know, a 10 to 4 or something like that, maybe that's not exciting to you. But like, that's what I think being alive is all about. It's about building things. Your family, you know, yourself, your company, your hobbies, whatever they are. But the most satisfying things you're actively building. But I haven't put vocabulary to that. I just thought that they liked what they were doing more. I thought that it was clear, and they were their own boss, which is like kind of everybody's dream.
Right.
So on February 10th, 2012, I had the idea with my brother to start my first company. It took until January 2014 to launch the first product. It's called Robley Email Marketing. So that's, what is that? 20 months, 23 months.
23 months, yeah.
Yeah, the second Get Emails, which retention.com used to be, from when, like, so Robley, we sold it, but it was like the mothership at the time. And that was $3 million a year top line. You know, we had 6 employees. So it was like very profitable. It was a lifestyle business that wasn't growing, which is like fine, but it's not a retirement plan, which was my problem with it.
Right.
So I had heard about this identity thing, and I was like, what do you mean I can get an email from someone who doesn't fill out a form? And knowing the email market, I was like, I could sell that to fucking anyone with a website. No, like no questions. The biggest problem in email is list shrinkage. Everybody needs a bigger list. Everybody wants a bigger list. So
shrinkage.
Yeah, it took me a year and a half to figure out how to do it. And then along the way, I thought affiliate guys are going to be the only people that bought it. It's just another point is, I think for entrepreneurs, like what your company ends up being is usually so different than the vision that you had when you launched
100%, yeah.
So like, just to give you an idea of what I thought Get Emails was, we sold Robley for $10 million to a private equity firm. My plan was, I was burnt out as fuck after this journey, and I just kept the cap table the same as Robley. I'm like, we're spinning this out. I'll sell it in 18 months. It'll be the same revenue. I'll get it to 3 million, but it's still growing and profitable. So we'll sell it for 20, and then we're done with our entrepreneurial relationship. Right. And I thought it was not can spam compliant when I started it. I was just like, but the affiliate guys won't care. There haven't been any.
They won't care at all.
Yeah, they haven't been any significant can spam lawsuits anyway. Right. Which was interesting because I owned an email business and I still didn't understand that about can spam, which tells you what I'm dealing, the blowback I'm dealing with right now.
Yeah.
I owned a fucking email marketing app like Klaviyo, and I did not know the law.
Yeah.
Right. How are they supposed to know?
Of course.
Right? They're not. So I thought it was an entirely third-party cookie-based identity system that literally it was declared that those were going to be gone. So this was 2019. They were supposed to be gone by the end of 2020. Gone. This whole product would be over. Still, it was the best thing I had going on. I was like, I'll make a few $1 million in revenue, and it'll go away. And then maybe one of these vendors we use for identity will figure out how to do without cookies, and we'll be fine. Lo and behold, 3 years later, they're still kicking the can down the road. And we have a system to do it without cookies now, which is incredible. So the whole plan the whole time was to get out of it in 18 months. Then 18 months came around, and I got one bid for 50 million, and then a bid 6 months later for 75 million. And I was like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
You know, like That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then, it came with like, it was like kind of 35 up front, 40 earn out.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
I changed the cap structure back to like where the people actually working on it for the earn out were getting the earn out. And that was fine. And like, literally like this was February last year, like got to where we were signing the APA the next day, the buyer fucking walks. And like, I had spent 6 months working on this deal, adopting the identity of a, semi-rich, semi-retired crypto bro, basically.
Sure.
Right? Like, who was going to write out the earn out. And, I'd have like whatever, $20 million and I could do whatever the fuck I wanted. Right.
Yeah.
And then I had this thing happen where I share offices with the Jasper guys. And I watched them go from zero to $1.5 billion valuation where they took secondary out or whatever in 12 months. And I was like, maybe I'm looking at this the wrong way. And all the while, like, this business was very high churn, but the unit economics were always incredible because there's no competitors. I think like I read something in this, there's this software as a service blogger, Jason Lemkin. He's like, the reason for high customer acquisition cost is well-funded competition because you're just like battling each other in the channels.
And to be fair, like I used to work, I was supervisor at Omnicom for West Coast operations. I drop $1 million a day for like CBS and I didn't even care about revenue. Right. Like people have no concept of the uphill battle that you're not even aware of. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what made the email space I was in before so hard. It's like MailChimp had this free product. They were also spending $1 billion a year advertising it or something like that. Maybe 300 million. They're spending $300 million advertising this free product, which was better than what I had. How are you supposed to compete with that? Klaviyo, phenomenally, they got a couple breaks, but like after the game had been won, they were able to create another 90% monopoly, which is just phenomenal. I have so much respect for those guys. But anyway, I loved it about this market that you could walk up to somebody, explain the product and what it did, and they would, holy shit, like their face would light up.
Yeah.
Like, like exactly what I said. What do you mean you can like get me an email for somebody to have fill out a form? It's like the 3 questions everybody has. How is it legal? How does it work? What do I send? Right. And then recently it's transformed into some other ones. Like with the bigger brands, like, will my brand get damaged? So the questions are slightly different, but from the same place.
Basically, it's just a nuance. It's an application.
Will this hurt? Yeah. Will this hurt me? Is what they're saying, because it feels like it should, right? It feels dirty.
Yeah, unfair advantages feel like there's a downside you're not able to see.
Totally. So, but my goal is like to keep making it safer and keep making Klaviyo happier and keep making the. So anyway, back to the story of this. So as of last year, the guy walks, I'm devastated. And then like, I have this conversation. I think our ARR at that point, so my goal with Diana Ross, who's our CRO, used to work for this guy, Ross Paquette in Marapost. He's one of the only guys that I'd ever met that had a $30 million a year SaaS company where it was bootstrapped and he took home $20 million every year. And I was like, why are there not more people doing that? Like that dude's so fucking rich now. Like, and he's still, no matter, he's kind of miserable and he's stuck and he's trying to do something bigger and kind of can or whatever. But like, still like, he's like pocketed like $200 million over 10 years, just, taking it straight to the bank. Right. Which I thought that even with the churn problem, it could be a similar situation for us. So I was like, that's the goal.
I know starting to see the breadcrumbs.
I was like, we're at 8. I don't think we can get to 100 million ARR, but I think we could get to 20. And if we get to 20, we'll be making 50. And like, I'll pocket 10 of it. And like, I'm never going to complain about that. And by the way, like, I don't even think I have to work that much for that business because it's just kind of doing what we're doing right now. And like the market's big enough or whatever. And if we lay low, then like, maybe we won't have competitors and like, we'll just be this, small, beautiful thing like this guy's company, Marapost. And then Dave's CO, who he hired, this guy named Mike Orlick. He was the CRO from WalkMe, which had gone public. And then he joined this, AI thing. He's like, just talking to me immediately after the day after this guy walked him, I was devastated. He's like, dude, like, you have 8 million ARR, you're not spending any money on marketing, and you only have 1 salesperson. Like, dude, you're not fucking trying hard enough. Like, that is unacceptable, right? Like, I don't care how you do it, but like, hire some more salespeople. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not telling you to do what we're doing, which is like, they went from 7 to like 250 people or something very quickly and raised 125 million or whatever, $200 million. But like, he's like, you got to try harder than this. So my whole plan was try a little bit harder, but like let Dave go do his thing with like all this venture funding and hiring like people that I don't even think it's like, I don't think he knows I don't know, like it's just a different deal for him now. Mine was like bolt on individual contributors to this thing, keep it super profitable, and kind of see if we can get it to 50 million or something. Then I met this dude, Santosh, who's my COO now, who I talk a lot in this stuff, in this content I create, who built Zoom Info, this big data company. There's another data company. There's now the second biggest Zoom Info called Apollo.io. Literally, like they were 5 million in revenue when he joined. They're like 150 million now, like over the course of 3 years. Unbelievable, genius scaling guy. And he's like, we can make this company massive if you want to. He's like, there'll be an uncomfortable period, but after a while, it will be very cash flow positive too. And like we're in the middle of the uncomfortable period now. And unfortunately, shit like that Safe Op thing happened. And like apparently triple whales getting hammered. Everybody's like gorgeous. April, May has been very hard for people selling into the Shopify ecosystem. Yeah. Which is strange because like, I don't know that the brands are hurting that bad, but I think that everybody's very careful and like trying to figure out if they got enough employees or the right amount of, not enough, like too many or like whatever.
Yeah, I think in the market, it was a very strong Q3, Q4. Q1 was underpriced. And then Q2, basically the unit economics returned back to the mean, but you had 9 months of completely artificial marketplace economics. And everybody's like, oh my God, what are we doing? And most of the time, it's like, if you're doing well, just look back to a year ago, how much better off you are. And then people calm down. But like, not everybody was at the same scale then. Like you're a fundamentally different business than you were May of last year.
Totally. So anyway, that is like, so now we're at this point where, I don't know, we either like broke even or made 250 grand this month. I don't know. We're not burning money, but like, I thought we would have been way out of this uncomfortable position by now. If something happens and we just sort of tread, so our growth was February, I looked at it today, February 10%, March 8%, April 4.6%, May 4%. Like that's gotta go back up to 10% or I hired way too many fucking people. You know what I mean? Like, but I think it will, a lot of it was self-inflicted. Like we're changing a lot of things and, I'm doing it very publicly and I'm like sharing all of this, like it's all making it into these show episodes and I show my financial online and stuff. And so I'm trying to like, give people a view into like what, it like, look, if it doesn't start growing again, I went from the most beautiful cash flow business in the world that literally would have been the greatest money making machine of all time to creating a $20 million a year churn machine where I'm not making any money. Right. Like, like it will go down and like, I will share that, right. It will go down. I don't know what's going to happen. Like I'm optimistic, but like, it'll go down as one of the dumbest things in business anyone's ever done. Which,
sure.
Like,
I mean, I think, but that's
right. Like
that's the thing that like, I hope that entrepreneurs understand is like, you're going into that with full awareness, which I love because most people aren't because they don't have the past history of. You're like, I always like to think it was like objectively on paper, 90% of the time this isn't going to work, but also I'm the one doing it, and I'm going to care 100 times more than somebody else. Right. And I feel like there are people where your thumb on the scale is different than the mean, right? Like you are making something happen. And it is one of those things where logically, if you would step back, for instance, when the buyout didn't work, most people would be like, all right, that's sort of the end of the story. I've been at places where the buyout didn't work. I was at a company, a nutrition company, and the 95 million Deloitte deal died like 8 days before the signature. Yeah. Right. And it was just like, Evie, the executive vice president left, the president left. I was head of the growth team. I left. Like it was a decimation after that. And I think what's really great here is the story that honestly, that's probably the best thing. Kismet happens, and it's about the opportunity of being prepared, being in the right spot when the right people come along. And, I think it could have easily gone 10 different ways for you, but I love that. To be fair, this is not your first rodeo.
Which I think is also very helpful, right? Like maybe don't go for it on your first rodeo. Do something that you learn how to run a company and you whatever, you know what I mean? You learn about marketing and sales and support and how to manage a tech team and all that shit. And then once you sort of have the skill, it's like I'm pretty aware of what I'm good at and like I know what I'm not. And like I'm comfortable taking this risk. It's like I'm foregoing a lot of current income to try to hit a fucking massive home run.
Yeah. And it's a leveraged risk that you're doing. And every failure along the way isn't necessarily a lost opportunity or something, but they're all lessons to get you to someplace, right? Like there's a lot of doors you open that you realize that didn't work out. And there's a lot of connections you made. And like I just did a video yesterday where I was talking about Tesla, right? Like the X was the plan. But to get to the X, you had to do the S. And then 3 years later, the Roadster. And then, like, once you figure out all the ops, once you make all the mistakes, once you get everything happening, then you get the machine that makes the thing work.
Right.
You know, I don't think you could have stepped in 2 years ago with where you're at today, even being on the table. And I feel like that's the biggest lesson that I've seen.
So like another, not to cut you off, but like another thing, this guy Santos has been, so he's worked with 20 B2B data companies very close. 3 of them have been spectacular successes. Almost all are in the middle. And then some of them have totally failed. And he's like, he has so many interesting things to say about the mindset of the teams. And one thing that really resonated with me is he's like, so basically he's like a couple of the most interesting things. One, he's like, several teams don't like, they don't believe they deserve it or they could be a part of it. Like never in a million years did I had some self-confidence, but like I was kind of like, I'm a bootstrap guy. Like I'm a cash flow guy. Like I'm not going to create $100 million company, let alone $1 billion one. Right. But then this guy, like literally like, it's kind of like he showed me the math. He's like, dude, like if we just fix this churn and then we hire these people and the go-to-market is, a quarter as efficient as it is now because we have all these other people, like we will get to 75 million in revenue in 2 years. And that's worth $1 billion in this market. Maybe less now. But anyway, another interesting thing. So he says, he's like, this mindset he describes is about stacking S curves. So it's like spending time on things that can become incremental or exponential, excuse me, not incremental. And like making sure you always have several experiments going at once while your core business is working, always be looking for the next S curve. And he's like, the people that can do it are either really young people or older people who have been successful doing this their whole careers, thinking very laterally and outside the box, appreciating that what your success is on this venture, it will have nothing to do with how you built your last business. Everything about it would be different. The go-to-market motion, the product, everything. He's like, the people who get stuck are like, it's like a 30-year-old who crushed it in his 20s doing one thing. He's trying to apply that one thing in his 30s. And he's stuck at 8 million in revenue or whatever the fuck it is.
He's like a one-hit wonder.
Yeah. And like, they're not open to actually having the type of mindset that would allow them to be disruptive in how they position the product and the market and everything else. Anyway, I thought those 2 things were really interesting. I know we're out of time.
No, I love it because I think at the end of the day, the biggest lesson that teaches that your guy was talking about is some folks just hit it, right? And that happens. Folks hit it like, it can happen. You know what I'm saying? I think one of the lessons learned in the music industry is anybody can write a hit song. Any manager can sign a good band. To be able to do it twice is astronomically difficult.
Right.
For anybody to catch lightning in a bottle more than once is almost impossible.
Yeah.
And I think the most successful people, the first lightning in a bottle isn't actually the peak. It's the building block that what they want to do is actually built on. And the honest truth is what they want to do isn't something they're even aware of when they start that.
Right.
And I think it's your definition of success for this business was so much less than what you're doing right now and so much less than what it's going to be worth 20 months ago.
Yeah. And by the way, like whether or not this ends up being, the $1 billion thing, I just picked $1 billion because it's so loud. It's like so obnoxious
on LinkedIn. I love it.
Yeah. It's so obnoxious, but like, I don't really give a shit. Like it'll be valuable. I'm going to be rich, like probably unless something really bad happens. Even something bad happens. Like I have the confidence in myself now that I can start another company.
Sure.
I know I can. Like I've done it once. I've done it twice now. Like I didn't have a lot of confidence as a result of my first business because it was like this data mining strategy that I always felt was kind of cheating. We were like stealing customers from Constant Contact. After that ran out, I couldn't grow it. So I was like, oh shit, unless I have enough strategy like that, I'm like not good enough or whatever. And this thing's growing on its own, which is tremendous validation. It's way more fun to be all in than make money.
Yeah.
Period. Like 100%. No matter what happens with this, I would have like, I was going to make a lot of cash this year. Instead, I'm like plowing it into all these people's salaries. Like it's way more fun going for it, period, in life, whatever. Like,
I love it. Let's end on that, man. Because I think that's great. I think I really appreciate your time. If there's anything else that you want to say or anything, I mean, it's retention.com. You're obviously a great follow on LinkedIn. I'm enjoying the stories. Your video editor is a phenomenal storyteller. Thumbs up is somebody that doesn't mean anything, that they shouldn't know who the hell I am or give a damn what I think. One guy thinks it's really cool.
All right, man.
But yeah, man, I'll let you just like, if there's anything you want to say, I'll leave the last word to you here, just so that like it's an unabated thing.
If you're caught up on the legality, just email me at adam@retention.com. If you made it all the way through this podcast and you're still hung up on the legality, I am willing to get on the phone with you personally and explain it all to you.
Honestly, I think I might just open with that and then we'll go straight to the legality. Yeah. That's a beautiful thing. Editing team, go find that, put that in the first. All right, great. All right, Adam, I appreciate it, man. I'll talk to you later. This was a lot of fun. I know you're a busy dude, and I'm sure I'll see you around the sphere, bro. Thanks a lot, dude. You're doing great stuff. Man. I'll see you later.
Holler. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, bye.